This video will cover Chapter 5, Sections 1 and 2. As we previously discussed in this semester, dealing with place value for the number system, numbers are broken into different values based on where they are from the decimal point. As you go left from the decimal point, you have your ones place, your tens place, your hundreds, and as you go right, you have your tenths, hundreds, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, etc. We've discussed that previously. What we're going to focus on in sections 1 and 2 is converting from fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. And then we will look at adding and subtracting decimals. So, let's get started. First up, we want to convert this decimal mixed number, this fraction mixed number into a decimal notation. Now this first part right here are the whole numbers. So that would be 23, and then you put your decimal point. The 37 hundredths, the denominator, the 100, tells you how many decimal places you're going to have after the decimal. And then you take the numerator and fill in those decimal spots. So 23 and 37 hundredths would be 23.37 for 23 and 37 hundredths. Let's look at this one. 582 and 8 thousandths. Well, the 582 is the whole number part. That's what comes to the left of your decimal point. And then let's focus on the thousandths. Thousandths tells us we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 3 decimal places, and there are 8 of them. When we fill in those decimal places, we fill it in from the right to the left. 8 thousandths. Your turn. Oops, sorry. Try this one. 45 and 30 thousandths. Press pause and give this one a try. Now, 45 is our whole number. 45 decimal. The thousandths tells us we need tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 3 decimal places. And then we look at our 30. We fill it in from the right to the left, so 0, 3, and we fill in the 0 placeholder. Now don't make the mistake of writing 45.03. Not the same. The purple is 45 and 3 hundredths. So they are not the same. Try this one. 67 and 23 over 1,000. Hit pause, and give it a try. Let's see how you did. The whole number is 67. Here's our decimal point. We've got 1, 2, 3 decimal places after the decimal point because of the 1,000. Fill it in from the right to the left. 3, 2, and 0 placeholder. 67.023. Now, let's try going backwards. Going backwards is actually fairly simple. The 62 is our whole number. We're writing a mixed number now. We then take the numerator and put it over the number corresponding to the last decimal place. This would be tenths, this would be hundredths, so this would be 8 over 100. Give this one a try. Press pause. Let's see how you did. The 3 is the whole number and our mixed number. And now we've got to look at our decimal place. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So the denominator of our fraction is going to be 10,000. And then we write the decimal part for our numerator, 7193. Try this one. 3.2. Let's convert that to a fraction. Press pause. Give it a try. Let's see how you did. The 3 is the whole number. The 2 is in the tenths place. So this would be 3 and 2 tenths. But this one will reduce. This will reduce to 3 and 1/5. After you convert, you always look to see if it will reduce. So this will be our final answer. Now, as discussed earlier in the semester, we do need to be able to write numbers as words, particularly when you're dealing with legal documents such as checks. It's the written words that override the numbers. And as we discussed earlier, the decimal place in words is the word and. So the first number that's up here would be 8. And here's our decimal point. Then you look at your number, that's 159. So you would write that as 159. And then you look at the last decimal's place value. The 9 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So this would be thousandths. 8 and 159 thousandths. So you try this one. Press pause and give it a try. Now, write 0.29 in words. Well, there are no whole numbers, so this would just be what this is, 29. And the place value of the 9 is the hundredths, so 29 hundredths. So let's try going backwards. Write 7 hundredths in decimal notation. Well, there are no whole numbers, so it's 0 point, and you have to put the 0 in. Hundredths. Well, the first decimal place is the tenths. Fill that in. Second decimal place is hundredths, so that would be 0.07 in decimal notation. Let's try this one down here. Press pause and give it a try. Let's see how you did. Write 223 thousandths in decimal notation. 200 and, so that's 200 and, there's my decimal point, 23 thousandths. Well, we got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 0, 2, 3. Let's take a moment and look at rounding when we have decimals. Here it says round to the nearest thousandth. So when we're rounding, we find the place we're rounding to, which is thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. We're rounding to this number, so we have to look at the one directly to the right of it, and then you round. The 8 makes the 9 round up to 10. So this rounds up to 2.750. And you must put in this 0 because we're rounding to the thousandths place. So give it a try. Press pause, try these 4, and then let's see how you did. Let's check your work. The first one says round to the nearest thousandth. Well, the 6 is in the thousandths place. So you look at the 8, and this rounds to 43.947. B, round to the nearest hundredth. The 0 is in the hundredths place, so you look at the 3. This rounds to 17.90. C, round to the nearest 10,000th. The 7 is in the 10 thousandths place, so you look at the 5. The 5 causes it to round up, 0.1588. And finally, D, round to the nearest thousandth. The 2's in the thousandths place, so you look at the first 3, and this rounds to 0.842. That's the general gist of section 1. Section 2 goes to adding and subtracting. And adding and subtracting with decimals is pretty much the same as adding and subtracting with whole numbers. Let's look at one now. We want to find the sum of these 4 numbers. Now, just like with adding whole numbers, you line up the decimal points, even though we didn't actually write the decimal points. When we're adding numbers with decimals, you line up the decimal points and fill in any placeholders with zeros. And keep in mind that for this first one, it's a whole number, the decimal point is right after the 1. So, we've got 21, 10.873, 4.2, and 0.15. And if you notice, I've lined up all the decimal points and I've lined up all the place values. Now, the 21 didn't have any decimal numbers after it, but I'm going to put in zeros for placeholders. Likewise, the 4.2 needs 2 more zeros as placeholders, and the 0.15 needs the 0 as a placeholder. So now I add up each column, just as you do normally, and your decimal point comes straight down. So this first one, 0 plus 3 plus 0 plus 0 is 3. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Carry the 1. 1, 2, 6, and 3. Your turn. Press pause, try this one, and then we'll see how you did. Okay, let's take a look at it. This one's already set up for us. The numbers are lined up, the decimal points are lined up, and please note, this is money, so we will have to take into account the unit at the end. Decimal point comes straight down. 7 plus 2 is 9. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 8 is 15, carry the 1. 4, 5, 3 is 8, plus 7 is 15. And don't forget, you've got to have the units for numbers with units. $155.39 is the answer. Now, subtracting, same kind of deal. Just like with adding, we line up place values. Let's do A together. We have 42.175 minus 13.986. Please note the place values line up, the decimal points line up. Now, just like with whole numbers, if we need to borrow, we can borrow. I can't subtract 6 from 5 without borrowing, so I'm going to borrow from the 7. 7 becomes a 6. The 5 becomes a 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. I can't subtract 8 from 6, so I'm going to borrow from the 1. The 1 becomes a 0. The 6 becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Can't subtract again, so I'm going to borrow from the 2. 2 becomes a 1. The 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. Here's my decimal point. I can't subtract again, so I've got to borrow. The 4 becomes a 3. The 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 3 is an 8. 3 minus 1 is 2. So my final answer, 28.189, or 28 and 189 thousandths. So, your turn. I want you to try B, and then come back and see how you did. With B, we'll line up our place values in our decimal point. 20.62 minus 9.813. Now, I'm missing a place value in the first number, so I'll put in a 0 as a placeholder. And then I subtract just like I would normally. Since I can't subtract the first two numbers, I have to borrow. The 2 becomes a 1, the 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. I can't subtract. I can't borrow from the 0, so I borrow from the 2. The 2 becomes a 1. The 0 becomes a 10. I borrow from the 10. It becomes a 9. And the 6 becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Decimal point. 9 minus 9 is 0. And 1 minus 0 is 1. Here's my final answer. Finally, we're going to talk about estimating with decimals. Estimating with decimals is just like estimating with whole numbers. You round your number to the leftmost digit. So, I want to estimate the sum of these three numbers and then find the actual sum. When I round to my leftmost digit, 42.75 becomes 40.00. 18 becomes 20.00. And 23.69 becomes 20.00. Add these up, and I get 80.00. So I want you to take just a moment and find the actual sum. Press pause, and then come back and see how you did. Let's check your work. Let's line up our numbers. Since 18 doesn't have the zeros for the decimals, I'm going to put in zeros as placeholders. Five plus 9 is 14, carry the 1. 14, carry the 1. 8, 10, 11, 3 is 14, carry the 1. 5, 6, 7, 8. So 84.44. Now, you take a moment, press pause, and then try and find the estimated difference of these two numbers and then the actual difference. Let's check your work. The first number, 96.57, you round to the 9. The 6 causes it to round up, so this actually rounds to 100. 42.8534 rounds to 40. Put in my placeholders. Let's subtract. And this is 60.0000. The actual difference, 96.57, 42.8534. I have to put in placeholders so I can subtract. Now let's subtract. I'm going to borrow from the 7. This becomes a 10. That becomes a 9. And this becomes a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 minus 5, 1. Can't subtract, so I've got to borrow. 6 becomes 5. 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. Decimal point. 5 minus 2 is 3. 9 minus 4 is 5. 53.7166. I hope this has helped. If you need further practice, please use the instruct and practice sections of the Hawks Learning System. You can always come by my office at any time during office hours.